right, we do have a resolution to consider after our executive session. That's Resolution 211120. It's a resolution authorizing Washington County to join the state of Tennessee and other local governments as participants in the Tennessee State Subdivision Opioid Abatement Agreement and approving the related settlement agreements. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve the resolution. I'll second it.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Malone, seconded by Commissioner Kate. Discussion, questions? Questions been called? We've already started it without you, Commissioner Carriger. We apologize. We're approving. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution 211120. Do you have any questions? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. All right, on to the Director of the Health Department report. Director Hodgen.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Hodgen. Commissioner Munn.
I was just, relative to the Broadridge board appointments.
I was just going to suggest that in light of the mayor's announcement tonight relative to his position on the Broadridge board, and I think I'm correct in saying that there is another vacancy in one of the county commission's appointments to Broadridge, I would just refer that perhaps to CIA or the appropriate committee for consideration of appointments to that board, perhaps one interim, perhaps one on a permanent normal rotation. So I would just suggest that we refer that to the proper committee.
I'll second that. That's a motion.
Motion. Is that your motion, Commissioner Malone?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Have a second? Open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Wheeler?
Do we usually post those before they go to the committee or after the committee takes some action?
Normally before they go to committee, so we can have applicants.
Could we amend that motion that they be posted and then go to the appropriate committee?
Yeah, just, I'll amend it just that we follow the normal protocols and procedures.
All right. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right, Director Hodgen, did you have anything else, Commissioner Martin, before I?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't have much for you tonight, but I do want to give you a quick update on where we are with COVID. If you're watching the news at all, these epi curves, you're starting to see a general upward trend, although it's not exactly uncharted waters. We saw the same thing on the back end of the Alpha variant that we came through over last winter. About April timeframe, we were in a sort of a bathtub, and then there was an upward trend there, and that tapered off pretty quickly by June. And we're seeing a similar uptick right now with Delta. We are looking at the general trend. If you're looking at the numbers, about a month ago we were sitting at about 19 new cases a day per 100,000 people. Over the last month we've gone up to about 42 new cases a day per 100,000 people. So we are watching the trend. Positivity rates in the same time frame have gone up from about 10% to about 14% in the county. But like I say, not uncharted water, so we're just watching this thing, and we're still vaccinating folks. And speaking of, we're sitting at about 56% fully vaccinated, which keeps us well above the 49% state average. So we're going to continue to do what we do there and offer up all the vaccine we can. And speaking of, the last thing I'll leave you with this evening is booster shots. So about 2 months ago, Pfizer came out and said, okay, you can get Pfizer boosters, and then about a month later, Moderna did the same thing, said, okay, now we got Moderna boosters. Last Friday, November the 19th, the CDC came out and said, if you're 18 years or older, go get your booster. So that's where we are now, kind of simplifies things. It still falls under a couple of the shoulds and the mays, but the bottom line here is you may, if you're 18 years or older. So hopefully that simplifies things for a lot of folks. And that is about all I have for you this evening. I'm happy to take your questions.
Have you gave many booster shots?
We are seeing more booster shots than first and second or even third doses these days. Not a ton. We're not being forced outside into our drive-through pods and things like that by the volume, but it is steady.
Oh, good. It's good to hear. Commissioner Jones?
Are you all doing the vaccines in schools?
We did our SLV at the pods behind the health department this year.
Okay.
We contacted the schools, said, hey, listen, y'all come see us this year. We're going to be open later hours. You can come straight from school, pick up and that kind of deal. So that's how we handled that this year.
Okay.
What was the decision on swapping company vaccines for the booster? Take Pfizer's first 2 doses and take Moderna for the booster.
You can do any or all, basically the mixing and matching. It says, as a matter of fact, I printed it out from the CDC because it was pretty specific here. It says any of the COVID-19 vaccines authorized in the United States. So if you have a single Johnson & Johnson, any booster you want to get, and Pfizer, Moderna, same thing. If you've got a full series of Moderna, you can get boosters from either the other two. So it's wide open.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Director of Schools report. Director Board.
Good evening. Just don't want to take much of your time. Just wanted to say, if you have any questions, or ask if you have any questions about the update that I shared, or anything else for that matter, I'm certainly open to those questions. I do want to invite you all. Yes, sir.
I got a question. What's the expected life of these 2 fields that y'all want to put in place, Crockett and Boone?
Yes, sir. The lifespan of the turf is anywhere between 10 and 12 years. If we, talk to the manufacturer, we follow the manufacturer's guidance on maintenance of the fields, we could expect to get 10 to 12 years before replacement. Just point out an invitation that you may have received already. We have scheduled an official ceremony for the signing of the agreement between the TCAT Elizabethton and the Washington County Board of Education in Washington County to bring that TCAT annex or campus to Washington County at the old Boones Creek site. So that's on the December 16th at 11 a.m. at the Washington County Board of Education building at the district office. And you're certainly all invited. We wanted to it's nothing going to be long, but we felt like it was important to highlight that and having a formal signing ceremony between the two agencies. Represents a lot of opportunity for both our students in Washington County schools, as well as extending out to Johnson City School students, and then impacting the entire community as far as access to another option of higher education in Washington County. 11 a.m., December 16th. If there's no questions, I just want to say thank you, and I wish each of you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Director Board. All right, the Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Committee report, Commissioner Cater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met on November the 4th, and we have our minutes on page 51. I will make a comment that Alicia Summers is here to answer any questions you might have, but she did include a pretty lengthy report in tonight's commission packet, so if there's any questions of that, she's here to answer those questions. And if not, we're ready to move on to resolution number 211104, confirming 3 appointments of members to the Agricultural Extension Committee, and that's Mike Saylor, John A. Teague, and the reappointment of Terry Robbins. And that resolution is on page 75 of your packet. And that comes with a motion for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Carriger, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. All right, Commissioner Carriger, anything else?
No, sir, that's
Thank you. The Community Rescue Assessment Board did meet on November the 10th. The mayor is here if you have any questions on that report. Mayor, do you have any comment on that? If you have any questions, the mayor is available for questions on that. The election office is here. Our election administrator, Dana Jones, is here, brought some of the election committee members with her. Our chairman, Gary McAllister, is here with us. Gary?
Mr. Chairman.
Just like old times.
I know it. I thought y'all come here to see me, all these people
Yes,
here, but I guess it wasn't.
absolutely.
Everybody left. Again, just want to come up here on behalf of the Election Commission, thank the commission for working so quickly and getting your commission lines drawn and everything. That really helped us out a lot and working with us so much. Dana had Ms. Jones here had some updates she wanted you to hear for as possible candidates or for your constituents to know what's coming up next in the elections. Her office has been, it's a great office, and they've been working extremely hard. And I think you'll be very impressed with what you're going to see, all the things that are coming up, all the technology they've embraced, and just some, again, they're doing a fantastic job. I'm very proud of them. So I'd like Ms. Jones, if you'd please come up and just kind of address the commission a little bit.
Hi, guys. I just want to update you on running for elections in 2022. On Friday, November the 11th, Governor Lee signed legislations allowing school board races to become partisan if the county political parties decide to run school board members on their ballots. I have received information from the Republican Executive Committee telling me that, yes, their intentions is to do so. They do have until December 10th to get me a letter in writing to make it official. I am assuming when I announce this that I have that letter, just so you guys know. So, the candidate pickup date for the county primary starts December 20th with a return deadline of February 17th. Who picks up packets? That will be all Republican and independent candidates running for county mayor, county clerk, county commissioners, register of deeds, trustee, circuit court clerk, sheriff, school board members in District 1 and 3, chancellor, circuit court judge, criminal court judge, district attorney general, general sessions court judge, and public defender. The Democrat candidates, I have been informed, will be nominated by caucus, and they will have made their candidates, both for school board and all the other offices, by the same deadline of February 17th at noon. And school board candidates must have a high school diploma. Are there any questions for us in light of these changes? That's all I have for you guys tonight now. So, thank you so much. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving.
Ms. Jones, you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
Gary, you can come back anytime, and you have a happy Thanksgiving. We're sorry to keep you waiting tonight. I know we've had a lengthy agenda. Thank you. All right. Our next item is the Employee Compensation and Benefits Committee. You'll see the minutes of meeting on November the 4th. We had a very good meeting, and if there's any questions, I'm here to answer those. Seeing no questions, we'll move right on to the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Chairman. You'll find the minutes from our November 1st meeting on page 97. And just 2 points to note. One is that we had Lottie Ryans and Dr. Kim Hale present to the HUE about a study that the county funded in collaboration with both school boards and the city, as well as ETSU, to study all the kindergarteners in Washington County. And they had a really interesting data set to show us that relates to workforce development. And the members of HUE that were there felt like it would be really great for the full commission to hear that brief, 10-minute version of that report. Chairman, just for you to note, when there's an opportunity to fit them into a full commission meeting in the future, it's really informative.
Okay.
The other thing that we discussed at your charge was the process by which we would think about how to spend opioid settlement funds. We had a bit of time at the end. We had a discussion about that. And the members of HUE asked me to draft something that would form the basis for our conversation at our meeting next Wednesday. So we'll be discussing that next week, and I would certainly invite any of you who want to hear about our discussion to come and hear us. So we are working on that. And so I'll go ahead and ask that you look at our resolutions today. The first one is Resolution 21-1105, resolution approving the revised Washington County Schools Educational Capital Funds 5-year plan for fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26. You can find that on page 111. And this comes with a recommendation from the HUE, and I'll bring it to you today in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Edens to approve the resolution. We do have a question from Commissioner Tester in his email.
I did not see this email from Commissioner Tester.
It was 21-1105 and 6. Should both be the same, pages 113 and 117. Page 113 has the new numbers for the Jonesboro School.
Yes, I noticed that earlier. Are you looking at 113, is this for Commissioner?
Tester.
Well, the exhibit that you have in there for on 113 is for the resolution that amends the FY22 budget. So columns 23, 24, 25, or the 23, 24, 25, and 26. What should have been attached to that particular resolution is the same one that is attached to the following resolution. I said that backwards. The following resolution should be, on 117, and we'll get to that in a minute, that's got the old Jonesboro K-8 numbers on it. In the committee meeting, the funding for the Jonesboro School would be increased, which is what is on page 113. So those numbers were increased in the budget committee. Is that correct?
And in HEW, so I just, to Commissioner Tester's question.
For the record, are we going to use Exhibit A from 21-1106 as an exhibit to 05 before it's approved?
No. 21-1105 is to adopt the capital 5-year plan. Correct? Y'all were talking about changing resolution. So 21-1105 is for the 5-year plan. The exhibit attached to that is the 5-year plan.
Thank you. So the exhibit for 211105 is correct?
That is,
Okay, and I just wanted to be sure we addressed his question on there before the commission approved it. Thank you.
that is, yeah, 211106 has a different exhibit, and that may be what it is.
Okay, just so long as it doesn't affect 05 before it was voted on. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler?
I'd like to just clarify that if we approve this, these individual projects still come back before us for approval, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, and really, on 211105, all you all are approving is a 5-year plan. It's not a budget amendment, that would come with the next. So you're just adopting the school's 5-year plan.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The next item for your
Consideration is resolution number 211106, resolution reclassifying adopted budget line for Board of Education changes in the capital investment plan. And this comes with a recommendation from Hugh, and I'll bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
Ask you to consider resolution number 211107, resolution authorizing certain education capital projects, fund expenditures for dietary capital equipment needs at various schools. This comes with a recommendation from Hugh, and I'll bring it again in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Second by Commissioner Kate. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Questions have been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Jones?
That's all I have.
All right. Next item is the Rules Committee. Commissioner Ford.
Yeah, our report's on page 121, and we do come before you tonight with one resolution, 211108. Resolution adopting amended Rule 1 of the Rules of Procedure for the Board of County Commissioners. That's on page 130. I come to you for a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Second by Commissioner Kate. Questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Thank you, Commissioner Ford. The next item is the Washington County Library Board. Mayor Grundy serves on that board. You'll find the minutes of the September 14th meeting in your packet on page 132. If you got any questions, Mayor Grandy will be glad to answer them. The County on Property Committee report, Commissioner Carrier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our minutes of the November 4th meeting are on page 148, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has at this time. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, our minutes of the November 16th meeting, I'm going to turn that over to Commissioner Jones. I was absent during that meeting, and I'll let her carry forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones?
You go ahead and do both.
I wasn't there
Oh,
for
okay.
this one.
All right, she just pointed out to me that the resolution 211109 is allocating office space. I think we handled that at our November the 4th meeting, and that comes to you in the form of a motion, and I'll make the motion that we approve it. Be glad to answer any questions if you have.
Motion made by Commissioner Carrier to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Ford. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. All right.
We'll move on to the November 16th meeting, and Commissioner Jones will handle that and the interlocal agreement.
Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Chairman. We had a special called meeting on November 16th to discuss the interlocal agreement with the city regarding the Ash Street Courthouse. We were pleased to have Mr. Peterson join us, as well as a number of community members, and we were able to have a fairly dynamic dialogue about what that resolution slash interlocal agreement should look like moving forward. And so in your packet on page 152, you'll see the interlocal agreement that we landed on in that committee meeting. It's the same interlocal agreement that we looked at and passed at the end of October, but it adds language that we intend to convey the property to the city, and we'll discuss that going forward. And it also adds language around the city's arrangement with the state about future use. So there's just 2 sections that are added that include that language. And I'm going to go ahead and ask that you consider that resolution. It's number 211121, resolution authorizing amended interlocal agreement with City of Johnson City regarding the Ash Street Courthouse project. I bring that to you tonight with a recommendation from the County-Owned Property Committee, and I'll also bring it in the form of a motion.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Jones. With a second, Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Wheeler. Open the floor for discussion. Commissioner Harris?
I guess only my question is, which I think that we beat this thing to death for months. I think it's time to get it going. I don't know, it seemed like I guess in government, you're always bad about that, but there's $5 million hanging out there. I don't think the county's ever come up with what we want to do with the building. How hard would it be just to give this thing to Johnson City now and let them have it? I'm not even worried about what we paid on the roof myself. I know I'm just one vote. So be it, we put a new roof on it. Johnson City does, we all do a lot for each other. You know, why can't we just make it simple and let them handle it?
Mr. Peterson's here with us this evening. Mr. Peterson, would you like to weigh in on any of these issues? We'd love to hear from you.
Maybe our last opportunity.
I have learned to only speak when spoken to. Well, thank you, Commissioner Harris. You know, we had the opportunity to get funding to complete the renovation and the restoration of the building. Our conversations with county go back to Dan Eldridge's first term when it was, would y'all please take this thing? You know, I mean, we've looked for use, we've looked for ways to try to preserve the building, and we've been blessed with the state granting us $5 million to preserve the building. So as an update, the Heritage Alliance had selected an architectural firm to do an evaluation of the building, which generated the report I think you all have already seen. We've hired that same architectural firm to develop the construction plans for the renovations, so it's in keeping with what's been talked about. We have entered into an agreement with Burwell Construction and the architectural firm to do this as what I'm going to use as the term design-build project. That way we can begin construction as the final construction details are developed and try to get this thing done to meet the state's guidelines as far as the time goes. I think it's going to be a really good project. You know, as a condition of the funding, there are certain uses that they want to see in the building. In looking at the documentation that transferred the building from the federal government to Washington County, it says it must always be used for a public use, which these economic development activities are certainly government uses. I think somebody pointed out earlier today, there's, I think, 17,000 square feet in that building. I think that there's going to certainly be enough room if, for instance, and I use this as an example, if the county wanted to move the offices that you now have in North Johnson City under a lease into that building, there's probably room for that. You know, I mean, we as Washington County taxpayers can save a lot of money by spending the state's money and getting out of some leases and put them into a local government-owned building here in Washington County. So I think there's some really great opportunities to get this thing done. We just, like, as you pointed out, we just need to get on with it. We've talked this thing to death, and if we talk much longer, somebody's going to want their $5 million back, and we don't want to get there. So during the course of the day today, the county attorney and myself and the city attorney took the agreement and made some minor tweaks and alterations to it. And I haven't seen what's in front of you, so I'm assuming that Sonny's marked up version is what's in front of them, and that's the document that they have made a motion to approve, or is it actually what's in the commission packet?
I heard, excuse me.
It's what's in the commission packet. Okay. Now, that's one of the reasons I wanted to coax you up here, so we're all voting on this and aware of the same, everything going on. You also had an interlocal agreement that was on the table with you this evening when you come in. That agreement is one that Mr. Peterson just referenced. The one that we have referenced of approving is the one that was in your packet. Allison, can you tell us the differences in those two?
I can. First and foremost, you'll see in handwriting at the bottom, received 3:12 p.m. because, as the city manager stated, there were some other comments, and they made themselves available to make those revisions today. And so the changes here are specific to, let me just go back to page Page 1 is the first change that you'll see, and that is in the third whereas. It says in March 2020, the county, I think that the intention is just to strike and the city, but so we make sure that, I think, work stays in there. But then there's not another change until you get to page 6, which says, should the Ash Street project not be complete upon the expiration of 1 year and the parties desire to extend the terms of this agreement or to negotiate new terms related to the Ash Street project, a separate agreement would be necessary requiring the approval of the governing bodies of both the city and the county. And I feel like I've jumped over one. I think there was one in the
There's a
middle.
new paragraph 8.
And that's in the one that they have in front of them.
Okay.
So paragraph 8 was incorporated during the special called meeting, and that is on page 4. And thank you, Mr. Peterson, because paragraph 7, the city has added that said approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. That's, I'm sure, something that you would agree
consider agreeing to. And on paragraph 9, the city has stricken the third sentence, allow for public comment. That has been removed. But those are the only changes. The most important thing is this agreement under the statute can only be in effect for 1 year. It has a 1-year maximum, and so the city accommodated that by including this additional language. If the project's not complete at the end of a year, that you could enter into another agreement that would give you the time to negotiate a transfer of the property, a conveyance, if that's something the city and the commission both wanted to do. But when you look at the underlines in here, on page 1, the November 8th expression of the city's interest, page 2, the authority to sell or convey within the discretion of the legislative body, page 2, that the county has publicly expressed interest in transferring the property, to Commissioner Harris's point. Those were incorporated in the meeting, and those are the same as what you have in your packet. So the only changes are the striking of the reference to public comment, said approval shall not be unreasonably unheld in paragraph 7, and page 6, the effective date, allowing a second term.
Commissioner Carey.
Mr. Peterson, let me ask you just a question. Since we didn't get this till about 3 o'clock this afternoon, would it harm the city if we waited to act on this at our December meeting? I agree with my distinguished colleague over there that we need to move on this thing quickly, but I do feel a little uncomfortable taking action on something that we didn't get until it was too late, or so late. Well, I mean, if it's going to harm the city, let us know, but
I'll end it this way, Commissioner. The city has taken a $5 million risk by proceeding with the work without this document in place. So I'm not real comfortable standing here and committing my 5 bosses to $5 million without at least talking to them.
they haven't approved this either, have they?
They have not. They'll consider it December the 2nd.
Right.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gunther?
To further that, the resolution we have in our packet, if we approve that tonight, will that allow the city to move forward, and you think they'll approve that at your meeting? I mean, there's a few discrepancies there, but, you know, to Commissioner Carey's your point, at last minute and so forth, I think we might be more comfortable approving what was in the packet.
That version does not contemplate, does it contemplate the transfer, Allison?
The agreement that's in there, neither of these agreements contemplate the transfer the way it was originally sent over at 11 this morning. It does have the recital that was discussed at the special call meeting, which is that the city expressed its interest and the county has publicly expressed its interest. So that is in there. The changes that were sent at 3 o'clock are relatively, they would not be legal bars to the commission considering it. I wouldn't expect them to be legal bars to Johnson City considering it. They're de minimis. The city's saying that it didn't work with the Heritage Alliance and that there would be no public comment and that a second term of this agreement could be contemplated. And I'm happy to share my copy with you, Mr. Peterson, if that would help you.
I think
the telling line is the effective date on page 6. If it says, should the Ash Street project not be complete, if you have that sentence, you have her most recent version.
Commissioner Carrigan.
I asked our attorney just a question. I'm just an old banker, not a lawyer, but on our interlocal agreement on page 156, up at the top, the second whereas, it says the county has publicly expressed an interest in transferring the property to the city. Does that cover us at all?
Cover the county for what, Commissioner?
Showing that we have an interest, we have a stated interest, we want to transfer this to the city.
Yes, sir, it does, and the reason that it doesn't have more concrete language is simply because of the notice requirements if it actually was an agreement to sell property. And it's not at all about the decision that rests with you.
Well, let me ask the question, and, I think it might be in the best interest of everybody if we pass what we had in our book, and if the city commission passes this, then we can come back and take a look at this most recent amended interlocal agreement, and take a look at it at our December, 22nd meeting? 14th?
Yeah, 14.
So, when does the city commission meet, Mr. Peterson?
Not that I would know when the 16th of December is, but it would be Thursday the 16th. So.
Okay.
Well, one of my concerns would be, I know that even last month, when this agreement didn't really get worked out, we started hearing rumblings of this project not having enough time to get completed then, and we were going to lose that money. Where are we with that, Mr. Peterson? Should we be concerned not getting this agreement done by the end? Or, does that give you concern to say, I feel like this commission wants to move forward, but I just don't know we definitely don't lose that opportunity to refurbish this building.
2 weeks ago, we turned the design group loose. They're running wide open right now. There will be some environmental remediation that should start this month. So we've got the project moving pretty good clip right now. And I was just thinking back, may I have a dialogue back and forth with the attorney for a second?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Right. Okay. Changing the date's not a big deal. The third whereas, striking those 2 or 3 words, that's not a big deal. The whereas about the authority to lease and sell and the county's publicly expressed is in the version they've got now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then...
That's the second whereas on the top of page 2 of what you're looking at.
Yes, ma'am. And then in paragraph 7, we had asked at the very end of that paragraph that the words, said approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. That is not in there.
That's correct.
Okay. Paragraph 8 is in there.
Yes, sir, and it has the change you requested.
So long as the use continues to be for a public purpose, does that included the very last words in that paragraph?
No, sir.
Okay. And then in paragraph 9, the language shall comply with all state and local requirements thereof. That is not in their document.
Let me just make sure it is in there, correct. The city struck allow for public comment and added shall comply with all state and local requirements thereof. And I'll just, Mr. Peterson, the language that's used in paragraph 9 comports with the Tennessee statute that talks about approval being required by both
elected bodies.
both governing bodies.
Right.
And it doesn't make a recital of so long as that's implied.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Carrick, can I trust you?
Yes, sir.
Can I trust you on this one?
Why, you know you can.
The main points are in here. Those other things are going to be important to us, but I understand if y'all want to pass what's in your packet with the understanding that we may come back and decide, hey, we really need these other tweaks, but give you some time to consider them and the impact of those tweaks.
And I think we meet on December 13th.
Is there a slight amendment to this, one that's in our packet, that we could agree on to give you some comfort? I mean, I'd like to see us, I don't know if that's something that the commission would consider. Commissioner Jones?
The one that we're considering tonight is what, it really has everything in it that you had asked for right before our last meeting. The paragraph 8 was the only piece that we didn't include, and it was because folks were unclear and uncertain about who was going to operate this building long-term with those provisions, right? Those uses. And then it's our burden to carry it forward with these uses that we don't really know much about, we didn't make a deal on. So we've conveyed that paragraph into this agreement and then added the language around the future conveyance of the property. So to me, I feel like we came around on what you all wanted at the time of our last meeting in a way that allowed us the full process, the special call meeting, the discussion. It was great to have you there. So when does the city meet again? Does it meet next Thursday, the 2nd?
Next Thursday, yes, ma'am.
Okay. It'd be my preference, with all due respect, Chairman, that we've had the time to deliberate on this one and think it through. If the commission's willing, that this is the one that go forward, and then give us the time to consider those, it's like 3 phrases in a process that makes sense.
Right. All right, just a thought coming to mind. We continue trying to get this moved along, and I know we have. Commissioner Huffine?
Well, I think in the meeting, we agreed there's going to be a lot more discussions and direction between now and completion and so forth. So I think that's already part of the process, so I completely agree. I think, in the spirit of moving things forward and cooperation, let's approve what we've had time to look at, what's in our packet, and then understanding if the city, your all's meeting, if there's things that need to be tweaked, we'll entertain that at that point in time. But at least we're making progress tonight.
Commissioner Kate?
My question is this, and some other colleagues I've talked to in the past have indicated they're not that interested in keeping this building for the county. And I haven't really heard anybody really that interested. So my solution to all this, we give a deed to the city for the building, and you all take your $5 million and go, and we're out of the deal. Aren't we? Because I don't think the county really wants it.
When we started this discussion, it was not our intent to come down here and say, we're going to take that building. It was, the intent was, hey, we've come up with some money, let's try to solve a problem for all of us that live in Washington County, or develop a project for all of us that live in Washington County. But the city commission has said that if it is the will of the county commission that you all don't want the ongoing responsibility of operations and maintenance, the city is willing to supervise and oversee the construction and then assume responsibility for ownership and O&M going forward.
Well, why not just deed the property to the city and we're out the loop?
And I won't speak for your attorney, but there is a legal process we'll have to go through for the real estate transaction. There's public hearings, and there's advertising that state law requires. You all have to approve it, we have to approve it. And what this document's really trying to do is say, hey, we all agree that we want to do the project, and there is a willingness to move forward with a future transfer of the property, and this just keeps it rolling until we can get that transfer done.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes. So what's in front of us tonight that we received at 3:12, the county attorney, so our county attorney, you participated in these changes. Is that correct?
I received them.
You received them?
There were a number of drafts that went to and fro from about 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And so that's the most recent one from the city, and that shows where they removed the other changes that they had previously made in the day, and that was kind of a landing point.
that I could say there's no legal bar to the decision makers considering that, and then it would just be for y'all to decide. The first draft that came across at 11-something this morning, I would have had to say had a legal bar to being considered because it didn't meet the notice standard. It was actually, it was an agreement to transfer the property, and that would not have been noticed under the statute. So the city revisited it. Mr. Peterson and Ms. Sandos sent multiple other versions. Does that make sense? Removing the legal obstacles and then leaving it with you as decision makers, this version, that version, it's all for you. Does that help you understand?
Yes, it does.
And
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I think with that said, I'm comfortable in moving on this tonight. I am. And so with the version, the new version, and I'll make that as a motion, if you're willing to accept the motion.
We have a motion to have second on the floor already.
Okay.
Commissioner Wheeler?
I support the idea of passing the one that we got in the packet to get this thing moving on through. We had a long discussion in county-owned property. Several of us attended that because we knew this needed to move fast. We were allowed to participate in that meeting. The discussions that we had with Mr. Peterson that day was this gave us a framework to get this thing moving, and then we could talk about a few things like the roof, like the possibility of us eliminating a $45,000 a year lease and putting in the county loan. In my opinion, this gives us the best opportunity to continue that discussion and be able to negotiate that. That's what we were, the ones of us that were at that meeting, that's what we talked about with Mr. Peterson. I don't think there was any problem on the city's part with that idea. They welcomed the idea that we could use a little bit of that space for these county offices and eliminate that lease. Even if they own it, and just do a long-term lease with them. But I would think that we let this committee, county property committee, is working on this, negotiating this, let them move forward over what we got here, tweak it if we need to, once the city commission, we may have further tweaks. They may not like some of the tweaks that have been proposed by their staff today. But let's just move forward with what we've had in our packet and give them a chance, county-owned property, to continue negotiating this. They're negotiating toward giving them a deed. But instead of just giving them a deed, the city's welcoming the idea that we get a little something out of it for the taxpayers' money. And I think we ought to take them up on that. So I would recommend that we pass this tonight, let county-owned property struggle with it a little bit more, and have this thing, we put a deadline of March 1st, that the county-owned property committee, Mr. Peterson talked through. We're not talking to any of that tonight. We're just saying, go ahead and give it to them. If they talk through, if they say you make this work on March 1st, I suggest we give that committee an opportunity to finish their work.
And we're just talking about 3.5 weeks. And we're going to be meeting as a committee again.
You said March 1st, months, not weeks.
No, that's the deadline they've set for negotiating the term of, they do a lot faster than that, I'm sure the cities will love that. But county-owned property can take that, they just gave themselves till March 1st as a reasonable time frame if they have some back and forth. There's been a lot of trouble getting the parties together to negotiate, so they gave themselves some time to do that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Peterson doesn't have the resolution in front of him, and that's where the recital of the timing is included. It's the sixth whereas. It's on page 153 of your packet, and it's March 31st. There was discussion at the end of the first quarter of 2022, and that was with the county publicly expressing its interest in transferring the property, but recognizing the importance of a public transfer and to provide public notice in conformance with Tennessee law that the parties commit to concluding the transaction no later than March 31st, 2022. It's a typo. It should be 2022. It says 2021.
Good catch.
Good, yes. Well, we'll put that in the one we sign.
Commissioner Roy?
I did that.
I have maybe a couple questions, and I'll direct them to the city manager and/or our county attorney, but I'm just curious, it's just a curiosity, but item 9, page 4 of 7, this is the version received this afternoon where it strikes allow for public comments. I'm just curious why the necessity for that revision. And I'm thinking about our public meetings, and we heard public comments tonight about the Ash Street Courthouse. I'm just curious the necessity for that change. Is it speaking to public comments during the city or county commission meetings, or is it speaking to public comments other areas? I wasn't sure why that was stricken.
The design is moving along. The intent there is we can't afford nor we don't want to get bogged down with a committee trying to decide what the final design is. I mean, we're not making, this is a restoration preservation project. It's not like we're going to add a new wing to the building, other than we have to put an elevator in the building, so there will be an exterior addition that will be an elevator shaft. Other than that, it's refinishing the woodwork, restoring the marble floors, replacing the windows with appropriate windows, those types of things. And we just don't have the time to get bogged down in that. We've really got to keep this thing on track, and the design is pretty far along.
I hear what you're saying. Have you ever tried to pick carpet at a church, you know?
That's what I'm trying to stay away from. Yes, sir, exactly.
But as I understood it, this was, again, it's a curiosity more than anything, but it was public comments related to the negotiation of terms and conditions related to the transfer of the property. So I fully understand how you can't get bogged down with, 10 people or a committee trying to design the renovations. Just a few other questions. It amazes me, and I'll make a comment first, but it amazes me how two governing bodies can want the same thing, and yet they can't get out of their way to make it happen. And over the course of these months, that's what I've kind of seen happen. Even today, the thought that we get a revised interlocal agreement, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going, gee, I thought we had this hashed out, and I'm not a member of the county-owned property committee, but I guess I thought it was hashed out last week in that meeting. But let me ask you this question. When did the city learn that this $5 million was in the state's budget?
1st of August.
I would have thought we might have heard earlier, June and July, but we're sitting here in November talking about pushing something to December that we've known about since August. And I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When did the city first pass this interlocal agreement that we're still negotiating and modifying?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It's been within the last 2 months.
It was
6 weeks.
It was the city commission meeting. I don't remember the exact date, but it was the city commission meeting immediately prior to our September county commission meeting. So it was mid-September. And I remember that, so the interlocal agreement, the very agreement we're negotiating and discussing tonight, was first passed by the city. And then it was presented to the county at our meeting, no different than the one this afternoon. It was presented to the county on our tables here at that September meeting. And so, and now we're still negotiating it. I very much, as Commissioner Harris said, as Commissioner Tate said, I've been saying, I think literally for years now, because I think I'll not go there, but I've been saying for years, let's just give it to the city. And I think many of us, we all want the same thing, but the two bodies don't seem to be able, the two governing bodies don't seem to be able to get out of the way to make it happen. But a lot of the delay, and I guess at some level I tend to take it personal when I read a newspaper or whatever, but it would seem as if a lot of the delay has been laid, the blame for the delay has been laid at the county's feet. And I think that is wholly inappropriate. Any delay that we've had, I think, relates to the city. You found out the 1st of August, the city approved the interlocal agreement the first time in September. That interlocal agreement didn't address use, didn't address any of the issues we're talking about tonight. part of me just wants an acknowledgement that, gee, from a city standpoint, and I know we're not going to do it, you can't represent the city as a whole perhaps, but part of me just wants some acknowledgement that, gee, the city could have handled this a little better, and the two parties could have, this had the potential to be such a great joint project. And I think, we've just messed it up to the nth degree by just bouncing things back and forth. And
Commissioner, I'll take full responsibility. You can beat me, you can call me bad names, whatever. I was really involved in this thing. Let's just get her done. There's blame to be absorbed by everybody, and I'll stand here and take 90% of it if we can just get her done.
Well, to that point, I think like Commissioner Davenport, I probably say even though I don't like the fact that we didn't receive it until this afternoon, I would probably say we approve the version we received this afternoon, just to move it forward and not have to address the issue in December. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ford, you had your hand up, you haven't spoke yet. Question's been called. We are voting on the one that is in the packet.
With the understanding that the property committee will take this up at our meeting, I guess, next week, and then we'll have it on the agenda for the county commission on December 13th.
What day is that on, Sherry? The committee meetings next week, is that? Wednesday the 1st.
Mr. Peterson, be sure and convey to the commission that we all want to give this building to the city. And we're trying our darndest to wade through the legal ramifications of getting everything done. And we're paid for the meeting.
We would like to get this closed a whole lot sooner than March 31st. So from our end, we'd like to go ahead and have somebody start working on a real estate transaction. So for what it's worth, we're going to get an outside real estate lawyer involved in getting papers drawn up, and we'll try to get those to you real quick.
Well, the first thing's got to be a contract in terms, if y'all get started in terms this week, not the week before the meeting.
I'm thinking about just getting somebody working on title research, deed research and all that, but yes, sir.
All right, so we've got the question called. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, for coming down tonight. Thank you for attending our county-owned property meeting, and we appreciate all you've done to help us work through this. All right. Motion second, question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote, mark it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 11 yes, 3 no, and 1 absent. The resolution passes. All right. Anything else, Commissioner Jones? No, that's all I have. Thank you. The Washington County Safety Committee report, those minutes are in your packet, November 10th meeting, page 162. The Water Task Force report, Commissioner Davenport.
Yes, you'll find our minutes on, for our November 9th meeting on page 164. Any questions? We will not have another meeting until after the first of the year. We do have everyone, obviously, as you can see, the projects that you have approved are moving forward. We've got dates to start those, and everyone is working on the next phase. Okay, meaning more projects to bring to you, hopefully by end of first quarter, which gives us plenty of time to start picking up on those when these are done. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, seeing no questions, we'll move right on to the Budget Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler?
You find the minutes from the November 10th, 2021 Budget Committee on page 165 of your packet. We have several resolutions for your consideration, the first of which is found on page 173 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-10, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022, regarding implementation and an electronic invoice approval system for county-wide obligations from the Governor's Direct Assistance Grant. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for your approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution, second by Commissioner Jones. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, you can announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is found on page 175 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-11, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022 to reclassify fiscal year 22 budgeted wage surplus for equity adjustments. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Wheeler, second by Commissioner Malone. Questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is found at page 178 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-12, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022 to provide funding for materials for waterline installation at Washington County Industrial Park. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is found at page 182 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-13, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022 to provide funding for estimated quarterly cost of Jonesboro's waterline installation crew. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Commissioner Carter? All right. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Resolution is found at page 185 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-14, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022 regarding Tennessee Library Grant and related grant revenue. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Edens to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, you can announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Next resolution is found at page 204 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-15, resolution authorizing funding from the capital project fund for the roof replacement at the Washington County Health Department. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Next resolution is found at page 206 of your packet, resolution number 21-11-16, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2021-2022 to allocate funds for professional engineering services related to county-funded waterline extension. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote, mark it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, please. 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Next resolution is found on page 28 of your packet, resolution number 20-11-19, resolution authorizing the purchase of artificial turf for Daniel Boone High School and David Crockett High School. Recommendation from the committee, and I move for approval.
Second. Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Carrier to approve the resolution.
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote, mark it in. Commissioner Jones, are you? Madam Clerk has announced the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passed. Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, we have that item we added, we passed in the agenda summary. You turn back to page 45 in your packet, the second reading item, the mayor's report, and I'll ask the mayor to speak to this report, setting the terms of the financing. Page 45.
With the additional $10 million that was added to the project, that $10 million is automatically recipient of the lower interest rates. So the lowest interest rate that we've seen available when we started talking about this project, when we started having a 3% or a little bit higher, is 2.125. What we've done is we've gone to our friends at financial analysts at Raymond James, Rich Langdon, what they call that before. And they did a comparison of some options. So we have the ability to take the original $30 million and capture the current lower rates. And that loan right now is locked in at 30 years and 2.25%. If we modify the loan, we can't just convert the interest rate, it won't allow that. But if we modify the loan and like the term or something else like that, if we can take advantage of this new lower rate, take another 8% off. So my recommendation is, our recommendation to the budget committee is that we take Raymond James option 3, which is using a 28-year term. We get the lower interest rate, and by doing that, we don't really change our debt service amount. So we propose to take advantage of the lower rate on the original $32 million, so that the entire $42.75 million bond, when it's consummated after the project, will be at 2.125. So that we're getting, reducing the term to 28 years. If we do that, we'll save an additional little over $1.8 million. And that's the recommendation. We need to, if you would approve that, we'll confirm it to the county code for them to get it taken. This does have a time sensitive, and that has to be complete by the end of December, which is the end of the quarter where this takes place.
The other thing that I would point out before I make a motion is that the county, under the terms of the contracts with Jonesboro, the county had the option of setting the term. We didn't really expect that would happen until about the time the bonds are actually issued, which is not until the building's complete. So we thought that would be 2 years out. We have this opportunity to go back, to pull the term back. What we looked at before, we thought we might want to push the term to longer term. But whichever direction we go right now, we can't go the other direction later. The rural development's made that real clear. We're going to have to justify pulling the term back, which we can do, but once we've done that, they will not let us come back and try to justify pushing it longer. So the reason the town wanted this to come in front of the commission was so that we're making a decision that we can't change later, which just means that we'll have more debt service than we would necessarily on a longer term, but we're going to save a whole lot of money going to that lower interest rate. So with that, I would make a motion that we set the term on the Jonesboro school project financing at 28 years, and that we authorize the mayor to convey that to the town of Jonesboro.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Huffine. Any discussion or questions?
Call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you will announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes, or the motion passes for the resolution. Anything else, Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. All right, no old business report to you. We do have Resolution 21-11-17. It's a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Motion made by Commissioner Light to approve, seconded by Commissioner Edens. Questions or discussion?
Call the question.
Seeing none, the question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. You're 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. We do also have resolution number 21-11-18, is a resolution scheduling the regular monthly meetings and times for the Board of County Commissioners in 2022. You'll see those meet at 6 a.m. Each day. 6 p.m. each meeting day. We have a motion.
So moved.
For the February meeting? What was the issue with that? Oh, yes, on our new rules, we need a date for February to go in that resolution. Is there a commission, or a meeting date for February? That will be a full commission meeting. Yes, that's to consider budget items. It's in the new rule we just passed tonight. 21st is President's Day, so that means that it's a holiday for the county. Yes, the rule's on page 130, if you'd like to read over that. Commissioner Jones is proposed the 22nd or the 23rd. Commissioner Williams, did you have a date? Did you have a date to propose? Well, I'm going to fall out here in a minute. You may just have to carry me out. How's that, Commissioner Williams? So that's 22nd, 23rd. What day is that, Tuesday, Commissioner Jones? That's the 23rd. That's on a Wednesday.
That's the motion, Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
No, I can't, if Commissioner Jones will make the motion. Okay, February the 23rd is proposed this budget meeting, budget direction meeting. There's a second from you, Commissioner Carriger?
That's second.
All right. Questions been called? I didn't hear that. Yeah, he seconded her motion. Commissioner Jones has made the motion. You blowed it up, Commissioner Jones. Maybe Commissioner Carriger made the motion and give it to second to Commissioner Jones. There we go. All right. All right, any more discussion or questions? Go ahead and vote. And cast your vote and lock it in. That's me. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes with those additions. All right, a couple of things. Cutoff date is Thursday, December the 2nd at 12 noon. If your committee is not meeting, like Employee Health and Benefits is not, please let Sherry know so she can get that out in December. Now remember, after our December meeting, we usually have food. We haven't got to do that in a few years because of COVID. So bring your favorite pie, your favorite chicken wings, something, and we'll do that. We'll have to talk Mike Ford into helping us downstairs and Jan just a little bit. We got to bring him out of retirement. Also, our next meeting, we would like to do a canned food drive. If you would bring some canned food, Commissioner Huffine is going to be leading the charge on our canned food drive at our next meeting. So it'd be great to have some canned food at our next meeting. So thank you for Commissioner Huffine. Sherry's going to be sending you emails daily. No, I'm just kidding. She'll be sending you an email before our next meeting to remind you of our canned food drive. Okay. Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a motion to adjourn, Commissioner Jones? All right. Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Light to adjourn. All in favor of adjourn?